I want to get you back to the point where you were before, because we have met these for quite some time. However, solving simultaneous equations like this is just like algebra in general, is kind of your bread and butter. You're going to be doing these left, right, and center when we're introduced to calculus. Okay, so you really have to be able to do this without thinking, quickly and accurately. Okay, so that's why we're focusing on it again. We've learnt two different methods for solving simultaneous equations like this. Two different ways of breaking down these two equations into one and then solving. What are the two ways? Hands up.
Substitution.
Substitution. Someone else want to tell me? Thank you, Reynard. What's the other method? Elimination. Very good. Thank you, Nikita.
Yeah, exactly.
Come in.
He was still having breakfast.
Wait, don't you guys like live together?
Yeah. He was still having breakfast.
Don't they live together? What?
He was still having breakfast.
Oh, why would you live
Just
together?
because they're brothers, it doesn't... Anyway. Okay, alright. Refocus, people. If every time the twins walk in separately we stop and discuss it, we are going to have a very, very long year, okay? 2 years. Okay, shh. Head back into space. Two methods. We need to know them well, and we also need to be able to determine when you should use one and when you should use the other, and when it will be quicker for you. Of course, you can always take either path, right? You'll always be fine. But depending on the question you get, one method will almost certainly be quicker and less error prone for you. So have a look at 1A with me. What do you think? Substitution or elimination? Substitution. I heard it a few times. Good. Now, why is substitution a better choice? Like, elimination will work fine here, but why is substitution a better choice for this one? Mitsu?
You can get Y like quickly.
Good. Okay. So it's all about, this is a speed thing, right? Have you ever had an exam, you've gone through it, and you felt like, man, that was a long exam? It may have been a long exam, but equally likely is that it wasn't a long exam. You just picked the slow way for a variety of questions. Bogged you down, and that's what was the problem. So, correct. In equation 1, and that should be the very first thing that you should do. You should label your equations. In equation 1, you already have y sitting there on its own, very easy to isolate. Okay, so let's set this out right. I'm now going to work on equation 1. I'm not going to bring it together with any other equations, so I don't need to sub this into that, or this divided by that, or this minus that. I'm just going to say equation 1, and I'm going to rearrange it. Okay, y equals. There you go, and now I'm already ready to substitute, right? Since I am taking an action that relates these two equations together, you always must state what you're actually doing, so that it's not just a string of equations where you're like, why does this appear? What does this have to do with anything? Okay, so I think this is one of the few times when an abbreviation is pretty okay, because it's completely unambiguous what you are doing. You don't need to write the whole word substitute. You just say sub this into 2. Okay, so no dramas, right? So 7x plus. Now, when I say that we're trying to develop speed and accuracy here, these are the kinds of things we're focusing on, right? As more negative signs start to appear in the exercise, you need to really be careful that you don't miss any of them when you're expanding, because that's the easiest error to make without sort of, and some people have asked me yesterday when they were having a look at some of their equations, where is the error? What have I done wrong? Why is my answer so ridiculous? And almost certainly, if you go line by line, you'll find a negative is almost always the culprit, okay? So let's go ahead and expand. 7x minus 16x will leave us with minus 9x, 53 minus 80, 27, or negative 27, then of course you just divide through. Okay, am I done?
No.
No, of course I'm not done. This is simultaneous equations, right? The reason I'm given 2 equations is because I have 2 variables, right? And of course you could expand this. If I were given 3 variables, I need 3 equations, 4 variables, 4 equations, and so on, okay? So I'm going to have to substitute this back in. Where would you like me to do it? Back into 1, of course, for the same reason that substitution was a good choice, because y is already just sitting there, okay? So I'll say sub x. Okay, and then off I go. 6 plus y. So now I'm done. Okay, my personal preference is that at the very end you should say, because sometimes you don't just have 2, and sometimes to get from the first solution to the second one takes a long time. I personally prefer that at the very end you say this. And just gather all of your solutions together in one spot. The next best alternative is to take another color, and where your answers are within your working, you can either circle it or put one of these kinds of marks, just whatever you need to highlight. Look, I've got a whole bunch of working, but here are the critical parts that you need to see.